All right, let's dive right in. Today, we are tackling one of the biggest puzzles for any sourdough baker: how to tame your starter's schedule. We're going to turn that needy little jar of goo into a baking partner you can actually rely on.
So, does this question feel a little familiar? Yeah. If you've ever felt like your starter is running your life, always demanding to be fed at the most inconvenient times, you are definitely not alone. It can seriously feel like a high maintenance pet that just never, ever sleeps. But what if I told you that the secret to turning that needy pet into a patient partner is just having the right routine? That's what we're going to do today. We're going to break down 3 super clear, super simple routines so you can match your starter's needs to your actual life. No more guesswork, I promise. Okay, so first things first, you have to understand that your starter isn't a one-trick pony. It actually has 3 totally different speeds, or modes, and it all depends on how you take care of it. We're going to walk through each one so you can pick the perfect gear for your lifestyle. But before we get into the routines, let's get one common point of panic out of the way. Hooch. If you open your jar and see this dark liquid floating on top, please do not freak out. It's just your starter's way of saying, hey, I'm hungry. You can stir it right back in for a little extra tang or just pour it off. It's a totally normal part of the process. All right, let's kick things off with our first routine, dormant mode. This is going to be your best friend when you need to press pause on baking. By sticking it in the fridge, we slow that fermentation way, way down, basically putting your starter to sleep. So the whole point of this mode is maintenance, right? Not active baking. If you're going on vacation or you're just taking a break from bread for a bit, this is the routine for you. The goal is simple. Just keep it alive but sleeping soundly in the fridge. Think of it like a simple 5-step weekly check-in. You'll pull the starter out of the fridge, get rid of most of it, give it a fresh meal, let it kind of wake up for a little bit, and then put it right back to bed. This weekly rhythm is really the safest way to keep it healthy and prevent any mold from showing up. And this right here, this is probably the single most important and most often forgotten step in this whole process. After you feed that sleepy starter, you absolutely cannot just shove it straight back into the fridge. And that's why. You've got to give it this 1 to 2 hour kickstart on the counter. You're just looking for the first signs of life, a few bubbles here and there. This makes sure the yeast is active and strong enough to handle its week-long nap in the cold. It's a crucial step. For this weekly feed, the standard ratio is super easy. 1 to 1 to 1. That just means equal parts starter, flour, and water, by weight, of course. So if you keep, say, 25 grams of starter, you feed it 25 grams of flour and 25 grams of water. Simple. Now, a little pro tip, if you want to stretch it a bit longer, you can use a 1 to 2 to 2 ratio. That just gives it a bigger meal to snack on through the week. Okay, let's switch gears to daily mode. This is for all of you who've got the baking bug and you're cranking out loaves every day or every other day. For this, we're keeping the starter right on the counter, active, warm, and ready to go. You know, the best part about this method is just how efficient it is. The goal is to keep that engine running warm. And instead of creating discard that you have to figure out what to do with, the part you remove each day is the starter for that day's bread. It's just a brilliant no-waste cycle. And here is where it gets really cool. You can actually control time. Want to bake first thing in the morning? Feed your starter a bigger meal, that 1-to-2 ratio, the night before, so it rises nice and slow overnight. Need it ready for after work? Give it a smaller, faster feed, that 1-1-1 ratio, in the morning. See? You are in complete control. You can really see the rhythm here. You bake with your starter, you leave just a little scrap behind in the jar, you refeed that scrap, let it peak, and boom, you're ready to bake again. It's that simple. And when you're done with your baking spree, just give it one last feed and send it back to the fridge to go into dormant mode. Okay, let's move on to our final and maybe the most common routine, weekend mode. This is for the classic once-a-week baker. The whole idea is a simple cycle. You build it up for your bake, you harvest what you need, and then you refill it and send it back into hibernation. The key here is just a tiny bit of planning. The day before you want to bake, you do what's called a build feed. Just look at your recipe. How much starter do you need? Okay, then add a little extra for the keeper that's going to stay in the jar. Then you just feed it enough so that the total amount hits that number. No more running short on starter. So here's the full cycle in action. You build it up the day before. On bake day, you harvest the amount you need for your bread. Then, right after, you give that little leftover scrap a small refill feed, let it get bubbly for maybe an hour, and then pop it right back into the fridge. It's a perfect in and out operation. Whew, we have covered a lot of ground, from the sleepy starter in the fridge to the daily driver on the counter. So, how do you choose? Well, this final section is going to bring it all together and make that decision crystal clear for you. And here it is, your ultimate cheat sheet. It's actually really simple. If you're not baking for a while, it's dormant mode, in the fridge, fed just once a week. If you're baking once, it's weekend mode, a quick trip to the counter and then back to the fridge. And if you're baking every day, it lives on the counter in daily mode. It's all about matching the routine to how often you're baking. So, what's the big takeaway from all this? The most important thing to remember is that you are in charge. By understanding these 3 simple modes, you can make your starter fit your life, your schedule, and your baking dreams, not the other way around. So, you've found your rhythm, you've found your routine, but what if you could control exactly when your starter peaks from maximum power? Maybe down to the hour? Now that you have the routine, do you want to master the timing? Well, that might just be a topic for our next explainer.